With the Green Bay Packers draft class now officially finalized, the moment the final pick was made in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Packers picked up their phone and started calling undrafted free agents. And more so on the Green Bay Packers, undrafted free agents are more important than, say, other teams because the Packers traditionally have undrafted free agents making their rosters. So in today's video, we're going to go over and break down the 11 undrafted free agents the Packers have added to their roster and also go over minicamp invites they sent out to players as well. Quickly, wanted to give a big shout out to today's video sponsor, BetUS TV. Guys, if you're looking for more sports content, I definitely suggest going over and checking out the BetUS TV YouTube page. I have it linked down in the description below, or if you're also on X, you can check out their X page. It's at BetUS TV. Tons of great shows, sports content, and much, much more over there on BetUS TV. Again, a big shout out for sponsoring today's video. All right, so quickly, let's go over the list of names, and then we'll go into each individual player and then break them down. So we've running back Amar Johnson from South Dakota State, running back Jaylen White from Georgia Southern, wide receiver Julian Fleming from Penn State, guard JJ Lippe, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, from Northern Illinois, guard Tyler Cooper from Minnesota, tackle Brant Banks from Rice, defensive lineman Nazir Stackhouse from Georgia, linebacker Jaman Dumas-Johnson from Kentucky, cornerback Kazir Brown from Florida Atlantic, cornerback Tyron Herring from Delaware, shout out UD, and also safety Jonathan Baldwin from UNLV. And the 4 minicamp invites: quarterback Taylor Elgersma from Wilfrid Laurier, I believe it's in Canada, wide receiver Jack Studer from Wisconsin La Crosse, linebacker Connor Shea from Wyoming, and linebacker Luke Gunderson from Northern State. So now let's individually break down each player, and I'm going to start with the 3 players that I think have the best chance to make the Green Bay Packers 53-man roster. And my pick for the undrafted free agent player that will, in fact, make the roster is Nazir Stackhouse, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Now, of course, the Packers also drafted a Georgia defensive tackle in Warren Brinson there in the 6th round, adding his teammate in Nazir Stackhouse as an undrafted free agent. I really like this one because Nazir Stackhouse comes in at 6'4", 327 pounds, and is a nose tackle type of defensive lineman. The Packers didn't add one of those throughout the draft class. It was actually a bit of a surprise to me that they didn't go and add a nose tackle through the draft. Now, obviously, getting Nazir Stackhouse as an undrafted free agent is awesome because I thought this guy could have gone as high as the 5th round. That's really where I had him when I went over defensive tackles, more importantly, nose tackles for the Green Bay Packers. He fit the thresholds for the Packers because he's around 330 pounds. He's 6'4", and Nazir Stackhouse definitely has the best shot, in my opinion, to make the Packers roster because, like I said, right now on the roster, he's the only guy that traditionally fits that nose tackle role. Now, he's a 5-year player coming out of Georgia. We know the Packers love their Bulldog defenders, and we can see his grades over the past 5 seasons. Been really a 3-year starter for that Georgia defense and has been, the cog in the middle of that defensive line. 400-plus snaps the last 3 seasons individually. We see this past season, didn't record a sack, but again, this is a defensive lineman that is filling gaps, plugging holes, taking on double teams, allowing, other players such as Michael Williams or even Warren Brinson one-on-one opportunities, where Nazir Stackhouse is right in the middle of that defensive line. But he did end with 7 total pressures last season, 17 tackles, a low missed tackle rate last season, and the year before that didn't miss a single tackle. So a sure tackler, 11 stops this past season, but over his 5-year career, which again is only really 3 years starting, 49 total stops, a 10.5 missed tackle percentage, 59 total tackles, 28 total pressures, and 3 total sacks. And to me, like I said, Stackhouse has the best shot to make the Green Bay Packers 53-man roster. But these next 2 players, I think, have good shots as well. First is Jaman Dumas-Johnson, linebacker from Kentucky. Here's another guy that I thought was going to be drafted maybe in the 6th, 7th round, goes undrafted, and the Packers snag him up pretty quickly. Now, I think he has a good case to make the roster because I think the Packers are still trying to add talent in that linebacker room. We saw them bring in Isaiah Simmons for a visit. They obviously re-signed Christian Welch after losing Eric Wilson, and Jaman Dumas-Johnson very well could beat out Christian Welch for that special teams linebacker role, and you see why. I mean, this guy's a tremendous athlete with elite size to speed ratio, nearly 6'1", so a little bit on the shorter side, but 238 pounds, but has 4.6 speed out of that linebacker spot, which is elite speed by RAS standards, and elite explosion, 37.5-inch vertical, 10'6" broad jump. And what do you know? Dumas-Johnson was also once a Georgia Bulldog. I mean, this connection just continues every single year where the Packers just continue to add so many either current or ex-Georgia Bulldog defenders. Now, he's a 3-year player at Georgia and actually played a lot of snaps in 2022, then saw a bit of a downgrade in 2023. I believe that's when their linebacker Mondon got there. And then he transferred to Kentucky and, maybe had less of a good season, and that's probably why he went undrafted here. If he stayed at Georgia, maybe he would have been drafted. I'm not really sure. Obviously, he went to Kentucky in 2024, but he did end up with 13 pressures, 3 sacks. This guy can be used to rush the passer as well. 47 total tackles with 10 missed, so a 14.5 missed tackle percentage. And we see over his 4-year college career, totaled 144 tackles, 34 misses, so a decent missed tackle rate here at 15.5%, but 52 pressures and 12 sacks from the linebacker position is also very intriguing. So I think Jaman Dumas-Johnson also has a case to make the roster as a special teams linebacker. My third player that I think has a case to potentially make the roster, similar to Donovan Jennings last season, is Tyler Cooper, guard from Minnesota. He was a guy I also had a grade on where, he could go in the 5th, 6th, maybe 7th round. He goes undrafted, and the Packers seem to get someone like him every single year. A lineman that shows a lot of promise, for some reason goes undrafted. They get him in the building, and they end up making the roster. I think Tyler Cooper could be that guy this year. 6'5", 302, good athletic guard, 8.43 RAS with good speed, great explosion. And if we take a look at his grades and his stats, he's a 2-year starter at Minnesota. This past season really only played left guard, but the season before that split time between left guard and right guard. And in this past season, he allowed 10 pressures and 3 sacks at that left guard position. But the year before, which he played in more snaps, he only allowed 5 pressures and 0 sacks, only 4 hurries and 1 quarterback hit. So very, very good pass protector. We see in 2023 that 83.3. And I'm sure if he entered the draft after the 2023 season, he most definitely would have been drafted. So this is a nice signing as well on that offensive line depth in the interior. Obviously, we drafted Anthony Belton, who could be a guard. John Williams is a tackle guard, versatile guy. We still have Donovan Jennings, Jacob Monk. So definitely going to have to fight to make a roster spot, but Tyler Cooper has a good case for it. The next player is a very, very intriguing one, and that is Kazir Brown, also goes by Bugs Brown from Florida Atlantic. And he doesn't have an RAS, but his sports agency put out his results from his pro day, and man, he is definitely intriguing. Kazir Bugs Brown is 6'1", 224 at the cornerback position, had a 37-inch vertical, a 10'1" broad jump, a 4.38 40, 24 bench reps is unreal for a cornerback, and a 4.09 shuttle. And what I did is I went into RAS and inputted all this data and made him an RAS card. So we have Bugs Brown, cornerback from Florida Atlantic. It would have scored him a 9.93 RAS. You could see all the numbers there. I mean, the size alone is so intriguing. 6'1", 224 cornerback with a 4.38 40. That doesn't come around often, so it's kind of interesting that this guy did go undrafted. A 3-year player at Maine, a 3-year starter, transferred to FAU in 2024. And had a really good season, right? A 76.7 defensive grade, 81.7 coverage grade. He had 3 pressures, 39 tackles, 6 missed tackles. And if you look at receiving, he was very good in coverage. 20 receptions allowed on 49 targets. That's a reception percentage very low at 40.8%, 344 yards. He did allow 5 touchdowns, but had 2 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, and allowed an 82.4 passer rating. This guy is a dark horse to also make the roster, with the Packers losing Robert Rochelle and Corey Ballantyne. I mean, a cornerback that's 6'1", 224 and runs a 4.38, that screams gunner on a punt team or a player on a kick coverage team. So Kazir Brown, or Bugs Brown he goes by, definitely a chance to make the roster as a dark horse undrafted undrafted free agent. Next on this list is Julian Fleming, wide receiver out of Penn State. This is an intriguing one. Didn't test well. Former Ohio State wide receiver, transferred to Penn State this last season. Almost 6'2", 214 pounds, has good size, but tested very poorly in terms of speed. Ran a 4.69 40 at the combine, and his agility grade was also very, very poor there. This is definitely the reason why he went undrafted. And he's also only really been a role player style receiver, over his college career, his 5-year career. You could see 4 years at Ohio State, last year at Penn State, and his best season was in 2022, and that was still only 533 yards and 6 touchdowns. So the Packers wide receiver room at this rate is loaded after drafting Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, even with Christian Watson starting on the PUP. Julian Fleming's route to the Packers would be on the practice squad, in my opinion. Next is Amar Johnson, running back from South Dakota State. He's very intriguing with an 8.8 RAS, 5'10", 205, but has elite speed. Ran a 4.39 40, good explosion grade, good agility grade. And if you take a look at his stats, a 4-year player at South Dakota State, really a 3-year starter here. This past season, his best year. He had 192 attempts, 1,236 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Now, just like wide receiver, running back is also stacked, right? We already have pretty much 4 running backs that you could say, hey, they're going to make the roster, right? With Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks. Now you add Savion Williams into the mix, who could definitely play some running back. Amar Johnson, just like Julian Fleming, likely if he makes the Packers roster, it's going to be on the practice squad. And we have another running back they added, Jaylen White from Georgia Southern here. Not as great as an athletic profile as Amar Johnson, 6 foot 205, ran a 4.6 40. If we look at his stats, a 5-year player at Georgia Southern here, and never topped 1,000 yards in a season. His highest was in 2022, where he had 923 yards. This past season, he did have 13 touchdowns to go along with his 740 yards. Just seems more of like a bruiser, goal line style type of running back here, but just another camp body at running back. Then we have JJ Lippe, guard from Northern Illinois, 5.67 RAS. He's 6'5", 302. If we go ahead and look at his career, he has a 5-year career at Northern Illinois, 4 years of starting, and we see he's played a bunch of different positions, mainly left guard this past 2 seasons, mainly left guard. He did play some right tackle this past season, but if you look in 2022, he played left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. So definitely some versatility here, but left guard mainly this past season, where he allowed 11 pressures and 1 sack. Next on this list, we have Brant Banks, offensive guard from Rice. I think he played tackle for them, and I believe he should be a tackle. I mean, he's 6'7", 306. And then if we go ahead and look at his stats, he's actually is this 6-year player? That is crazy. He spent 4 years at Nebraska, now 2 of which didn't play at all. And then the next 2 years in 2021 and 2022, he barely played for Nebraska, then transferred to Rice and was a 2-year starter. In 2023, started 800 snaps at left guard, and most recently in 2024, started all at right tackle, where he allowed 16 pressures and 2 sacks. Next, we have Tyron Herring, cornerback from the University of Delaware. Again, shout out UD. Nice to see this guy getting a chance to make the Packers roster. 6'1", 201. Very, very low athletic profile, though. 4.27 with a 4.49 40. Very poor explosion, very poor agility. And if we look at his career, he's actually a 2-year player from Dartmouth, and then transferred to UD for 2023 and 2024, where he saw 369 snaps this past season. He allowed 21 receptions on 34 targets, a 61.8 reception percentage allowed for 177 yards. He allowed a touchdown, had an interception, and had 2 pass breakups, and allowed a passer rating of 72.8. The final player is Jonathan Baldwin, free safety from UNLV. Also a very poor athletic profile here. Undersized safety, 5'11", almost 6 foot, 190 pounds, but has decent speed. He runs 4.5 40, but his explosion and agility are also very, very poor. And if we look at his 4-year career, all at UNLV, a 3-year starter at that safety position, with this last season getting a 77.9 grade, his highest of his college career, with a decent coverage grade. And he's used a lot to rush the passer. 14 total pressures and 5 sacks for a safety is actually pretty wild, with 49 total tackles and 13 missed tackles. And in coverage, he allowed 39 receptions on 63 targets for 418 yards. He allowed 3 touchdowns, but did have 3 interceptions, 8 pass breakups, and allowed a quarterback rating of 77.3. So those are all the undrafted free agents the Packers added after the 2025 draft finished. There are a couple other guys around the league that went undrafted that I wish the Packers got into the building. One of them being Cam Horsley at the nose tackle spot, but I'm happy with Nazir Stackhouse, right? You're bringing in a guy that played with Warren Brinson in college. Obviously, the connection to Georgia there. I just thought Cam Horsley would be an even better connection, obviously playing under Jeff Hafley in his college career. And then also Xavier Restrepo. I know the Packers are loaded and fine at wide receiver, but he's a guy that there's no reason he should have went undrafted. And you might be going, well, he ran a terrible 40 at the combine. If you simply just put on that guy's tape, you could understand why he shouldn't have went undrafted. But he did the right thing going and pairing up with Cam Ward over there in Tennessee. He wouldn't have had a route to the Packers roster most likely in terms of the 53 there. But there's a lot of players that had, in my opinion, 5th, 6th, 7th round draft grades, and they completely went undrafted. This is a very interesting draft in my opinion. I know that happens every year, but I feel like this year more than the prior years, there are so many players, and I'm like, wow, they went undrafted. Like Jared Ivey went undrafted. Like that's crazy to me because some people had him as like a 2nd to 3rd rounder. But this is the Packers undrafted free agent class here. And like I said, I think Nazir Stackhouse makes the roster, and I think there's a good case that someone like Tyler Cooper or Jaman Dumas-Johnson could also make the roster. Let me know your pick for the 1 undrafted or 2 undrafted free agents that you think will make the Packers 53-man roster down in the comments below. Also, a quick reminder to go check out BetUS TV. They're linked in the description below to go check out their YouTube. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.